Thank you, guys. I want to just say thank you so much to everybody for being here and to Waxbase for having me. Just for those of you who don't know, sorry, I know I'm going to have trouble with these slides. So Joy is a bakery just down the street on Davis and Tyler. We started this month 5 years ago. I actually started a couple years before in my home kitchen. I started baking a lot, and I was making French macarons, and I did the whole farmer's market circuit and generated enough business to justify opening a store. We quickly opened a second shop on Lower Greenville in Dallas, and then a couple years later opened our third shop in Fort Worth, and that kind of brings us up to date. Today I am just going to share a few things that I've learned through my experience, and I hope that some of them will be helpful. Oops. So personalizing my brand has played a major part in the success of Joy. I really see Joy as a reflection of myself and my personality. This approach to business does not necessarily work for everyone, but it has worked for me. And so I'm going to specifically talk about playing to your strengths, crafting your identity, and being consistent, and how that's contributed to my success. Let's see. So I grew up in Fort Worth. I went to TCU. I got a degree in advertising and public relations. I then decided to further my education and move to San Francisco. I went to the Academy of Art University and graduated with a degree in art direction from there. I worked as a freelance art director for a few agencies, and I also started working in retail. I was fortunate enough to work for brands like Anthropologie and Ralph Lauren, two brands that I really thought fit my personality and aesthetic, and also have very strong brand identities. I found that I really loved helping people, and I really loved the customer service aspect of those jobs. It was during this time also that I started dreaming about owning a business. And I tried lots of different things. I dabbled in making my own soap. I even made handmade journals. But I was also baking a lot at that time, and I became really, really passionate about that. And so with baking, I was taking all of my goods to work and baking for friends and family. And I finally kind of stumbled upon macarons, and I decided, this is what I really love, and someday I'm gonna open a macaron shop. I wasn't really thinking about opening a bakery in an analytical way or even a rational way. It was just a gut feeling. And I think that this, looking back, this decision to open a bakery based on my gut feeling, it did make sense for me in a few ways. So it really played to my strengths. It tapped into the joy that I have when giving a gift or helping people. And it really married all of my passions together. I love to bake, I loved customer service, and I love design. And it kind of really brought all of those things together. And because I was tapping into my strengths, it's still exciting for me. I still wake up motivated, and it still helps me to kind of push through the more daunting things, in small business. So, oh gosh, I'm going to keep doing this. So growing up, there was a bakery in Fort Worth. That's where I grew up. I think I said that. And it was called Bluebonnet Bakery. And it's one of my earliest memories growing up. I still remember the way it smelled in there. I still remember the people behind the counter who worked there, definitely the way that it looked. And I found that kind of obsession with bakeries to grow over time. So when I traveled to different cities or all the different places that I've lived, I've always sought out bakeries, and a few of them, stood out to me. I'm sure that y'all are familiar with Sprinkles, and I don't know if everybody's familiar with Mr. Holmes Bakehouse, but it's it's one of my idols. And going to these bakeries, I quickly, registered that the reason why I connected with these was not because of the cupcakes or the croissants. It was really about the way that they made me feel and how I identified myself and saw myself in these brands. So in 2014, when we were opening our bakery on Davis, I knew that our identity could not be the macaron shop. I knew it had to be more than that. So some of the things that we think about are, well, I mean, I think that branding in general is a real ethereal concept, and people can like approach it in lots of different ways. But for us, we have two really critical things that we think about when we're thinking about our brand and how to craft it. The first one is, what are our core values? What really matters the most to us? And then also, how do we want customers to feel? So at Joy, our core values are quality, and that can mean lots of different things in lots of different businesses. But for us, it really is about using the very best ingredients. And it was also super important for me to make everything that we could from scratch. And we still do that today. It's also part of quality for me is making sure that everything is very consistent in our bakery case, so everything looks a certain way. If something's not the right size, or if a cookie's a little oval shaped instead of round, yeah, we eat it. We just eat that one. We don't put that one in the case, we eat it for ourselves. Yes. I mean, every day I go into the bakery saying I'm not gonna eat cookies, and every day I eat every broken cookie. My staff is like, just save some for us. But yeah, no, I eat a lot of cookies. So anyway, quality was really, really important to me. Creativity is extremely important for us also. It's part of what keeps me excited about our bakeries every day. And, there's other places out there that do macarons in different cities and in Dallas, and it's really important to me to always push the boundaries. I do not want to be like anybody else. And sometimes that feels really, really difficult because of our social media, community. Nothing seems original anymore, but creativity is super important, and that comes in lots of different vehicles also. But it helps me stay focused and helps us differentiate ourselves. So we come up with different flavors every month. We have a huge whiteboard in our bakery, and everybody is supposed to write ideas. Sometimes people just draw pictures, but creativity is really at the core of what we do. It's super important, and it's definitely an artery throughout our entire company. With that too is cleverness. I have always wanted to be playful. I mean, we have a bakery, and I say this to all of my staff every day, not every day, but a lot. I say, we're making cookies, we're not saving babies, so let's have fun with what we do and not take ourselves too seriously. So some of the things that we do to be clever, we love to put stuff in the middle of our ice cream sandwiches. So for instance, for Mardi Gras, we made a king cake ice cream sandwich and put a baby in there. We also, I work with my cousin Patrick, and he's also my architect, and he came up with the cookie heads 5 years ago, and we put them on our menu, and now we kind of play with, they're like how we talk to our customers. We explain everything through the cookie head. So that's another way that has made us, another thing that's made us a little bit quirky and allows us to have fun. The way we want our customers to feel is just as important as, our brand identity. We of course want them to feel joy. We do that by providing a clean, bright shop with enthusiastic customer service. Joy is also in the details. I've had a lot of fun, again, working with Patrick to come up with the way our stores look and all of the details within them. We also want our customers to have a sense of adventure. We have 14 different flavors, and some are a little out of the ordinary, and we're hoping that, our customers will come in and try something new, and that our staff will encourage them to do so. One of the little things that we've done is we haven't labeled all of our flavors in our case, and we do that because it creates a relationship between the customer and the person who's serving them. So we want them to come in and ask questions, and we want to be able to answer those questions. So all of those little details are things that we've thought of along the way. and we want the customer to experience. And of course, we want our customers to feel satisfied. We want them to feel like they've hit the jackpot when they've come in. And we want to exceed all of their expectations and for them to go out in the world and tell other people and have other people come in. So now that you have played to your strengths and crafted your identity, it's time to be consistent. So branding is your reputation. It's, what people say about you when you're not around. And everyone wants to create a specific look and feel to their business. And I think in some ways that's super simple. So I've highlighted some of the simple ways to do that. And in some ways it's not so simple. So, we all know you need to have like a specific logo and maybe stay within those fonts and have a specific color that's true to you. And that's a simple way. Some other simple things that I do to be consistent and to gain my customers' trust is I have a real simple formula for Instagram. I post a product pic, and then I post a people pic, and then a product pic. Anyway, when you look, it's really simple, but when you look, it all looks really nice and clean and pretty. And that's just something super simple that I do. Some of the more difficult things are customer service training. This is always something that we struggle with, making sure that all of our people are representing us in the best light and in our brand in the best way. So we're constantly training, we're constantly talking to our staff, we're constantly having meetings. Something that's even more difficult is innovation. I think it's really hard. I think I've already said this, but it's super hard, today. It feels like everything's already been done. So it's tricky to be innovative and to constantly think of new products, and even whether or not they fit within your brand. Because, I love to make chocolate chip cookies, but I don't think that chocolate chip cookies would really fit at Joy Macarons. So, anyway, we're always asking ourselves, how do we offer new products, but also maintain our core values and stay within our limits. So I think that being consistent, it builds trust, and it doesn't happen overnight, and it's definitely a process. That's really all I have. So I would love to answer any questions that anybody has about my business, or really anything, branding, anything. Thank you, guys.
How did you choose your locations?
Oh, that's good. Well, I knew that this first location, we did do a pop-up in this location during, it was a long time ago, during the Better Block party, and I loved that building, and David Spence was redoing it, and I just thought it was going to be really cool. We also live in this neighborhood, so it made sense for us to open something that was kind of close to home. We, when I say that this was an intuition thing, I mean, we had a business plan, and we ran some numbers, and we were like, oh, we don't know, maybe this will work. And so having the location close to home and in the neighborhood that we love so much and that we really connected with all of the people here just made sense. And then we thought, after being in this location for about a year, Lower Greenville was really like a real happening spot at the time, and still kind of continues to be off and on. And so we really loved that neighborhood connection also. So they have, there's a lot of people that live around there, and we kind of were spending a lot of time in that neighborhood. So that just made sense for us. Fort Worth was the trickiest, and I'm from Fort Worth, and I thought, oh, this will be easy, I'll figure it out really easily, but it was really, really tricky. Fort Worth is not as walkable. People don't hang out in neighborhoods and walk around as much. They do downtown, but that's a lot of tourist stuff. It's not really Fort Worth. So when they started building, we're in the Shops at Clear Fork. It's like a brand new kind of outdoor mall. And so when they started building that, they actually reached out to us, and it really came down to like who else was going to be there. This is a big thing for me too. I mean, it's important for us to have a lot of walk around traffic, so we always try to pick places that have, except for down here on Davis, we always try to pick places that have like lots of food and bars around them, because we're, an after dinner spot. Clear Fork was going to have all of that. They were going to have lots of restaurants and lots of shopping, and the space size was important too. We're kind of, our cookies are this big, we don't need a lot of room. So, so it was just kind of all the stars aligned in Fort Worth. But I don't know, I mean, I think it's tricky, it's really hard. I've looked at some other places, and because we still always think about, you know, if the place is right, maybe we'll open another store. So we think about things like, you know, visibility and walkability and, I don't know, did that answer your question? Was that a very long-winded answer? Yeah.
So how did you initially get the word out? I'm always interested in you know, how do you get that initial sort of groundswell of customers?
I know.
That, because it sounds like in the end you're also relying a lot of word of mouth.
Yes, no, we totally are.
You still need
that initial,
that sediment of people that are actually there and supporting you in order to get to that place where you have enough people spreading the word around what you're doing.
I think and I think for me, at the time that I started, it was probably about 7, almost 8 years ago that I started selling these at farmers markets, and there really wasn't anybody else doing it. So that helped a lot. I think people were traveling a lot to the East and West Coast and abroad too, and had seen macarons and were like, oh, what are these? There was a lot of education involved in that process. But, you know, I tried to do, and I personally would, if an order came in, I would personally deliver it to people. And so I think I built a lot of relationships that way. I think I talked to a lot of people about what they were. I talked to a lot of people about what I was doing. And that kind of created a buzz. And then I think also when we opened, it just happened to be like a very nice moment for macarons in general, that people were excited about them and learning a lot about them, and they were very Instagrammable. And so we quickly, you know, kind of were able to get a lot of word of mouth, people coming in, and then we got just a lot of press at the beginning too, because people were excited about it. And like I said, people like to take pictures of them, and so. But yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I still struggle with that because we don't really do any mainstream advertising. I mean, everything that we do is on social media or online, and so I still struggle with how to balance that.
Do you collect names of people and build like an initial list?
Yes, I mean, we did start collecting, you know, customers that were coming in, all of their information right from the get-go. You know, Square, we use Square, and it will do that stuff for you. But we also collected emails and stuff. As far as like press things, it wasn't until, you know, a year in or a couple of years in that I got savvy about who was actually writing articles about us and how to connect with them. And even still, I'm learning that stuff. You know, we just sent out a press release, our first press release that we've really ever sent out about serving ice cream. And, you know, we were like, did we do this right? So we still are kind of very grassroots at that. But we've had this loyalty program now, and I think that helps. And, you know, so we're learning. We're slowly kind of learning and trying new things all the time.
How's your day-to-day work look in year 5 versus year 1?
Oh gosh. Well, so I would say year 1, I was I touched probably every cookie that got sold, and now I'm not in the kitchen as much as I used to be. I do a lot more administrative stuff, hopping around to the different stores and making sure people are trained properly and know what they're doing. I mean, my passion is still to be in the kitchen, and so I do go in there every day, and, you know, I talk to them, but it's very different. I think I'm doing more, I don't know, I feel like I'm in meetings more, I'm talking to people more, I'm doing more of the marketing stuff. That's kind of where I've landed. Whereas before I was in the kitchen, you know, all day, all night sometimes, and so balance is a little bit better. My husband now works with me, so when I first started, I had 2 kids and was pregnant with a third, and he was working all day and night, and I had 2 stores and a babysitter who would come, and I would, anyway, so it was crazy at first. I feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was drowning for a little bit. I don't feel so much like I'm drowning anymore, but it's just a different type of busy. Does that answer? Yeah.
How did you, when you were initially starting, what was the process kind of like as far as hiring people when you started growing the team and knowing like what people to select and hire in that position? And
Gosh.
with that, also with that, I would imagine comes the need for a lot more funding.
Yes.
And kind of like, how did you manage all that stuff, bring that stuff together?
So I feel like hiring has been, that's kind of something I've learned a lot about. I thought that, if I was just nice, everybody would be super nice too.
That's not how it works.
No, surprisingly. I was like, why? So part of a lot of what we've spent a lot of time developing has been training manuals, and how we choose the right people is completely different now from when I started. So when I first started, I would interview people, and I quickly realized I was probably not the best person to do that, because I like everyone. I actually have never had a bad interview, which is crazy because I've been interviewed 100,000 people. So I quickly realized that I was not a good person to do that. I found a manager who is a much tougher person than me, and that person is who interviews everybody, and my husband interviews everybody too. So now we have like a 2 interview process. You have to show up at least twice, sometimes 3 times. Sometimes I'll meet with somebody and then my manager and then Jason. So anyway, our process has gotten significantly harder. I also have found some different websites. We specifically use a website called Poached, which helps us find people who are looking for food-related jobs, and I'm sure that there are lots of those out there in different fields. So that's helped us a lot. As far as funding and things like that, we started the first one, and almost, everything that we put everything back into this business as much as we can. And then we've also just found funding through small, business loans from banks and things like that. Does that answer your question? Yeah, kind of. I think with employees and hiring too, one of the things that I found is just being really, really honest about what the job description is, and always holding people to a high standard. And that usually will weed out people who are not interested in doing those things. I'm also like a very large presence, I think, at all the stores all the time. So not saying that it's intimidating or anything, but I could pop in at any moment. So, everybody seems to know that I'll be there and I spend time there, and and that helps a lot too. Yeah.
How long do your employees stay with you? What's your attrition rate?
Well, right now we have high turnover at the front of house level. I feel like they usually stay probably at that level an average of 3 to 6 months, But my management team has all been with me for over 2 years. And then my kitchen staff is a little bit different too. I feel like the turnover is probably more around like a year there. And that's just from us just kind of learning how to manage people and make sure that we're not being confusing in any ways. And we have really, really diligent, handbooks and how to do things. And, everybody has to sign expectations. And, it feels like it's just a constant conversation all the time, that we're constantly talking to people. We're constantly updating those too. So yeah, it's, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Product design, so like the packages.
Oh yeah.
How do you, I feel like your brand's something that a lot of people want to emulate, so how do you stay kind of forefront, or not just, how do you keep pushing that forward?
Well, I think, that's hard. I think I kind of was saying that the creative part is really the best part for me. It's my favorite part. So I am, but you need help. So I think it's always fun to reach out to people to help. So Patrick, my cousin / architect, is like a huge help, and I run a lot of things by him. And he and I have lots of conversations about, you know, anytime that we've opened a new store, we've always talked about like, what do we want that to feel like, and how do we want it to be consistent with the other stores, but not be exactly like the other stores. I also draw a lot of actually inspiration from like competitors and stuff as to like what you know, that's really cool what they're doing. I want to be different. So how am I going to differentiate myself? You know, we came up with some holiday packaging this year, and you know, I wanted to reach out to, you know, somebody else to help design it. So you know, I reached out to Kyle Steed. He's a friend of mine, and you know, he designed our holiday packaging. And I just think that like surrounding yourself with other creative people and just talking to people about what's fun. My team too, I have to say, like my kitchen team, you know, I talked about that whiteboard. I mean, we are constantly talking about what can we do to push the limits? What can we do to be more interesting? What flavors can we come up with? What tastes good? What doesn't taste good? You know, I don't know. I think that we're always trying to again, it's just a lot of talking, a lot of conversations.